Hey guys, in this video we are covering surgeons of Reddit. What's the weirdest object you've had to remove from someone's butt? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I'm a vet. Dog had eaten a whole roll of poop bags, the plastic baggies people use to clean up after their pets on walks. They unspotted in his gut and spread from stomach to colon. His owners realized what had happened when he started pooping out bags, and brought him in through my coworker went in to cut him, and the scene she described was hilarious. He would intermittently strain a little, and poop out a little section of bags. Someone would tear them off, and he'd be okay for a bit, then poop out some more, like he was dispensing them for himself. He did great after surgery. Years ago my nurse wife told me a man had an apple removed from his butt, but I never understood how this could be possible. I often think about this, but have never asked her for more details. I'll ask her over the table at Christmas dinner tonight. A nurse. I've seen baseballs, loads of dildos, cans of soda, vegetables. There should be a public service announcement about using dildos in the bum. It needs to have balls, or some sort of base so it doesn't get lost up there. Women's vaginal dildos don't need them, as there is only so far it will go. A doctor I worked with once told a man, "It's okay if you want to put things in your rectum. You just have to use the right things." Endotech here. Had a guy come in with a capped section of PVC pipe filled with mercury, because he liked the sloshing when he jerk in his tuckin. Had to call in hazmat and security had to be called when he became violent, because they wouldn't give the mercury-laden pipe back. An enormous silicone butt plug which broke off at its base inside the patient. It was shaped like a soft cone on a stalk, with a base at the bottom. Had to remove it in pieces. Also, an Orangina bottle 2 years before this butt plug. Back when I was in a tech, we had this guy come in with a full-size bottle of VO5 shampoo up his butt. Of course he said he fell on it in the shower. You could clearly see it on the X-ray. It was pretty spectacular. The best part was he knew exactly what needed to be done to get it out, suggesting that this wasn't the first time. He asked for conscious sedation and for someone to pull it out. Well, the ED doctor tried that. Then tried to manually get it out with forceps, and was essentially elbow deep in this dude, but couldn't get it. He had to go to the operating room to get it taken out. I bumped into the surgeon a few days later and asked him how it went. He joked to me that after we knocked him out, I grabbed a plunger out of the bathroom and got it out that way, but then told me all he had to do was stick some suction up there till he felt it connect, and then slowly pulled it out. According to the surgeon, this guy never presented any sort of identification or insurance card, and demanded to pay his entire bill before he left. Usually takes some time for bills to get finalized. He paid it completely in cash, and then left via a taxi. When I worked in the we had a guy come in with a 6-battery mag light stuck up Main Street. The funny part is that it was inserted bulb out and it was turned on. So we laid him down prone and the doc spread his cheeks. Then the room lit up like he just cracked open Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. A friend of mine is a surgery resident, and during one of her trauma shifts a meth head walked in with an incandescent light bulb in his colon. It was shoved in with the wide part first. They were dilating the rectum in an attempt to remove it, and the resident in charge of the procedure managed to accidentally separate the metal base from the glass globe, which immediately shattered under the pressure of the colon. They had to perform a partial colectomy to resolve the complication. Meth is a hell of a drug. A foreign body per rectum is a fairly common occurrence. In my time rotating India, the most common things have been yucca roots, avocados, shampoo bottles, etc. But that light bulb story is still unmatched. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen the X-ray. Somewhere out there in the world there is that one deeply unfortunate person who was actually cooking while naked, who did slip on the kitchen floor, and whose ass really did slam down on the freshly peeled potato. 1 in a million chance. Poor guy probably went to the figuring no one will ever believe me, and just told the attending physician, "I'm into some weird kinky tuber sex play." Not me, but a good friend I have known since 6th grade who is an emergency room doctor. Straight couple in their early 20s, and they were using a vibrator on her. They switch. He said it was his first time, and they had lube everywhere and the slim 6-inch vibrator disappeared all the way up in him while it was still on. They waited and tried to get it out on their own and finally went into the They were going to wait till the batteries died, but it was getting late. My buddy tried to get it out, but couldn't get it. He told the guy they might have to do surgery to get it. The guy asks my buddy if he has to go in, can he call his mom and tell her? My buddy laughs and says you are 22 and you get to call your mum to tell her you have a buzzing vibrator in your ass that might be perforating your colon. Then my buddy remembers a guy he went to medical school who works in the same hospital. He has freaky long thin fingers like ET that might work. The other doctor gloves up and gets the vibrator still buzzing out of him. Just for your information, it is really easy for this to happen, so limit the lube on your hands. Your colon gets like a suction on it and things go in easy like what happened to these guys. Edited. Subbed vibrator where dildo was. I've seen a small size Fanta orange soda can get pulled straight out of a man's rectum. Son of a doctor here. My dad removed an entire peeled sweet potato from someone's colon once. He swore that he had just slipped and fell on it. We received a patient with horrible pain that felt like constipation. He couldn't poop and laxatives weren't helping. We soon found out that the blockage wasn't just constipation. It was a string of beads several meters long that had become tangled into an ugly ball inside. I had to snip it apart and carefully pull pieces of it out. When most of it was out, his arsehole became a rocket engine with diarrhea as the propellant. Not a surgeon, but wowie, do I know a lot of cases involving filling on things and other such excuses. Here are just some of the things I know. A Buzz Lightyear action figure. A Barbie doll. Plaster of Paris. They wanted a mold of his colon. Instead, it had to be cut open, as it was glued shut by the plaster. Glasses. The sight kind. Jewelry, mostly necklaces. A cucumber which, after proclaiming he fell over in the garden naked and landed on his cucumber patch. Today I learned it had the Tesco wrapper on it. A light bulb. Finally, on a rather dark note, if you're a fool who slipped something up their black hole, 'cause the butt sucks things in disturbingly well. They can't retrieve. Please, for the love of God, go to your doctor. People have died due to toxic shock due to this shit. A guy here died of it in 2 weeks due to having a dildo stuck up there and never went to his docs. Your pride can recover, but you can't recover from death. I'm not a doctor, but my cousin is a colorectal surgeon. She's dealt with at least 2 people who've put light bulbs in their butts. Not the butt, close to it. My sister worked in a urology clinic and has some very crazy stories ranging from at-home sex change procedures to this case in particular. She had to remove almost 200 BBs from a guy's bladder via his urethra one by one, as the guy had a fetish of shoving things down his urethra. I once had a flatmate who was a nurse. She had a patient who came in complaining of stomach pains, which was caused by the cucumber he'd shoved up his butt a couple of days earlier. Apparently the smell caused by pickling a cucumber in your colon is extremely nasty. Not a surgeon, but a former anesthesia technician while in the army. I had a few interesting cases come through. Top 5, not in order. Light bulb, not like a lamp light bulb, but one of those LED lightsaber bulbs that you see air traffic controller people using. 24-inch double-ended ribbed black dildo. That was a guy who had it stuck there. Sodacan. Ken doll. This was actually removed from a woman's vagina. Half a baguette. Not a freaking clue how that happened, honestly. I've thought about it a lot and just never could figure it out. MD, but not a surgeon. On my surgery we had to remove a mini Nerf football from someone's butt. He kept apologizing and saying he wasn't gay. Later, the attending surgeon told us that it's always the straight guys coming in with stuff up their butts and they always try explaining that they aren't gay. From looking at the medical Reddits, I have learned that every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's anus somewhere at least once. We progress from sticking everything we see into our mouths as kids to sticking everything in our ass as adults apparently. I was an RN at a busy Detroit emergency department. A homeless woman, frequent flyer and drug abuser, came in to see us with abdominal pain. The X-ray revealed 17 oval-shaped objects in her vaginal space. They were removed by a very diligent medical resident armed with a speculum and McGill forceps. With the aid of an ultrasound tech, 17 Barbie doll heads. Their removal was made a bit easier by their long hair. Not a surgeon, but as a former paramedic I brought them lots of business and feel qualified to chime in. I brought a guy to the hospital with severe abdominal pain and rectal bleeding. The dispatch nature was accidental injury, not life-threatening per patient. The chief complaint was I put something in my butt and can't get it out. Patient refused to elaborate on something. Delivered patient to the ED and was filling out my run report when the charge nurse came into the EMS room and said, "Come here. You have to see this." I followed her to the little X-ray alcove next to his room as a surgical orderly was wheeling him out of the room along with a nurse and the ED attending. The charge nurse flipped on the light board. "Yes. I'm going old enough. X-rays used to be film-based. and I stared in confusion for a few seconds. I could make out the pelvis, both femurs, spine, etc., but there were other hard objects shown. She pulled down the first X-ray and put up the second, which is when I made out a small animal skull and I realized the other objects were bones as well. I looked over to the nurse and started, "Is that a rat?" She finished. Dude stuck a rat up his ass and was rushed to surgery because it chewed the shit out of him, pun intended, before suffocating and had perforated his colon in multiple locations. He survived to discharge and is presumably still out there. My partner and I never did determine the method of administration, but I'm picturing one of those habit-rail plastic tube cage setup things. My mum worked in the Johns Hopkins back in the 70s. She pulled a Coke bottle out of a senator's ass. She refuses to say who though, because ethics. Girl I know had suspected cervical cancer. Saw 2 different doctors before a specialist examined her surrounded by trainee doctors. Grabbed and pulled on what everyone thought was an inflamed, infected, tumorous cervix. It was a love egg. It had been in there for 3 months. Not a surgeon, but my ex was. A policeman and his wife came in, because he had something stuck up his butt. When my ex asked what, the wife said a vibrator, exactly like this one, and pulled out a 9-inch vibrator from her handbag. Don't know what qualifies as weird anymore. Between myself and friends, glass dildo, vibrating dildo, travel toothbrush holder, Campbell's soup can, cucumber, Mac Light, cologne bottle, Sean John unforgivable hair, time capsule, light bulb, aerosol can cap. The oddest one was literally nothing. Guy comes in complaining of something stuck up their butt by girlfriend. A doctor feels nothing there. X-ray and CT scan says maybe something there. I don't feel anything. In the operating room I feel deeper and still nothing. Finally do a full colonoscopy and nothing there. Not my story. My friend is a radiographer. The guy came into the hospital with Barbie dolls up his butt. After scans, one came out without too much issue, but the other was too far up. They were worried that if it was pulled out, its arms would open and puncture the bowel, so they scheduled surgery. The X-ray staff waiting excitedly for news. The surgeon then returned and with a serious voice announced, "We've found Ken." Not a surgeon, but close friends is a radiologist and identified a dildo on X-ray with a diameter of 10 centimeters, 4 and 22 centimeters long lodged in a guy's anus. The dial at the bottom broke off and couldn't get it out. Ended up on the OP table. Vet surgeon here might have an unfair advantage in this thread. One time a dog ate its own foot. Dog came in missing a paw from the wrist down. Owner had no idea where it went, but the dog also had some serious GI signs. One X-ray elucidated both problems. Not every day you see an abdomen with a literal limb inside. Had a friend in med school whose assignment was to figure out how his cadaver died. He found about $5.25 up the man's ass. Don't shove metal up your ass, metal poisoning is real. Weirdest one is from out here in the West Country, UK, Southern Toffs in farmer's land. To let you foreigners know, middle-aged man goes into armed with something up his back passage. Goes into X-ray where he sees my girlfriend. What's up there? For baking potatoes. Not the little ones either. Each one about the size of a fist. As he tells it, he was at home cooking dinner and slipped in the kitchen and 4 potatoes went up his ass. Sure they did. Cassava. And everybody in my country knows it cause it showed up in the news. Because someone in the operating room had the great idea to record a video of it and make it viral. The patient sued the hospital. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.